Hey YouTube, TilleyJS. I deleted my Jesus is Coming Back video. I decided to do it over. I rambled a little bit, and I want to be concise and get to the point. And the point of the video was basically how evangelicals or any other religious sect of Christianity or Islam or Judaism, which Judaism doesn't believe in, their Messiah hasn't come back yet, but for those who think that their Messiah is coming back, what criteria? I mean, how would they know? I guess, and what? And of course, they're going to give you biblical verses, but I mean, literally, and the examples I give for just calling bullshit on how they would know if their Messiah had come back was, David Koresh. What if he was Jesus? Because when I was younger, and I seen the Waco thing going down, I actually watched that live. That was wild. And my first thought was, as I think a kid / almost teenager, was, what if that is Jesus and they're killing him? Because at that time, I was in church, or starting church, in the church, and that's always a funny thing for me, is how do they know, and how would Christians know? Anybody who would claim that, actually, there's, I think, a Hispanic gentleman, I think he's from Mexico, who's claiming that he is the Jesus. So, of course, I guess that falls under extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But how would Christians know? And of course, they're going to say, you would just know. But literally, unless he or she could do something that was totally amazing and superhuman, there's no way for you to know, because if somebody literally told you that, you would laugh in their face. But I guess that's really it. I mean, how do you know? How would you know? That's the whole thing. And then I wanted to go on to Jesus and whether he was a person or not, or and if he was a person, he definitely wasn't a god. And my case for that is, if he really was superhuman, because that's what we're talking about. He was able to do, feed the hungry, heal the sick, or actually only the sick he walked across. So sorry if he was too lazy to walk a mile down the road because your daughter was dying of diabetes or demons, whatever you want to call it. And my argument in my last video was, and I want to stick with that, is if you were an emperor, say like King David or whatever, the Israelites, or Rome, or any of the startup empires or kingdoms, wouldn't you want somebody on your side, kind of like a Camelot? He could be your Merlin, because basically he would be a wizard. And I guess the argument you could give against that is, if you don't understand it, you want to destroy it, kind of like blacks and gays. And I don't mean that now. I mean in the past, of course, gays still now. But in the for argument for Jesus, I mean, why wouldn't kingdoms or kings and emperors want this guy at their side? It would have made them infinitely more powerful. I mean, can you imagine an army marching in to sack a kingdom, an empire, and your men start getting hacked to pieces, and Jesus just comes in and just goes, oh! You'd have an indestructible army. He could bless them. He could blind them with the Lord's light, or whatever. And I never understood that. If he was a real person, and the other thing is, it's in basically the Mesopotamia area. I mean, this is where society started. Not humans. That was Africa, but I guess it's northern Africa still. But Mesopotamia, the starting point of civilization. All your trade routes, sorry guys, all your trade routes are right there in the Middle East. And nobody heard of this motherfucker. The only people the only person who wanted to write about Jesus was Paul. Even though, well, anyway, but nobody outside of the Bible. I mean, we've heard of Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, Cleopatra. We've heard of all these people who did great things, but nobody heard of Jesus Christ. Of course, you could go on to nobody heard of Moses, Abraham. I don't know if Muhammad I think was a real person. But anyway, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean, you take all the facts, and it just doesn't even make sense. Could he have been a real person? Sure. Is he more like an analogy for what a human being should be? That's probably more likely. That's it. What do you think, YouTube? I mean, you just look at the sheer number of people that would have heard about it. Even if the story was distorted, it's still, I mean, other than a book, that's the only that's the only reference we have to some mythical figure. The first superhuman that's ever walked the earth, and that's all we have. But anyway, that's it. And going back to, don't forget, how are you going to know that Jesus is coming back? I mean, are cats and dogs going to start living together? What's your evidence? There's going to be a comet headed toward us, and some guy's going to lasso it. His name's Jesus, and throw it away from us. And 1,000 years of reign of peace and prosperity, except for you sinners and you thinkers, you atheist people who are always angry. But anyway, that's it. Jesus is coming back. Repent, motherfuckers. The end is nigh.